Hello everyone, I'm Ipek, a PhD candidate at Johannes Gutenberg University, and the title of my presentation today is The Hero's Sexual Journey, the Process of Sexual Subjectivation in the Philosophy of Michel Foucault and Judith Butler. Let me first explain what I mean by using the word hero, which I borrowed from Joseph Campbell here. So as you may already know, the hero's journey is a story template that involves a hero who embarks on an adventure, faces obstacles, and returns home transformed. Hero here, however, refers to the subject, sexual subject, whose journey is still continuing. As the perception of sexuality and the hero's positioning in the face of this perception have constantly changed throughout history. So subjectivation is a journey that sexual subjects are exposed to. That's why I'm using the word hero here. And the aim of this study is to examine how sexuality, typically considered a private sphere, becomes a public issue through the lens of the politics of sexual identity. Specifically, this study will explore the ways in which Michel Foucault's and Judith Butler's ideas about gender and subjectivity shed light on this phenomenon. This research offers a perspective for understanding the discourses and power mechanisms underlying the ongoing discriminatory identity politics. Heterosexuality, homosexuality, and bisexuality, the three main topics in which sexual orientation is discussed in keeping with the idea of a gender binary, have given birth to a number of normative values related to each other in society and aligned individuals. Among them, the normative is marked as heterosexuality, and if the direction of desire is within the framework of binary opposition, it is socially approached. As Michael Warner says, heteronormativity is reflected in all institutions, all social institutions and perspectives, and that the heteronormative sexual order encompasses all institutions. Individuals are labeled as bizarre, eccentric, weird, deviant when they step outside the boundaries of heterosexual normality, as Rubin says. As she states, sexual practices are ordered within a cultural sex hierarchy, and according to this sex hierarchy, sexuality that is considered normal, natural, and good is heterosexual, marital, monogamous, reproductive, and non-commercial. Anything outside of this sexual hierarchy is queered and marked by disciplinary techniques in a Foucauldian context as salient, eccentric, and disorganized. Sexuality, however, has been one of the most significant tools used by the power in regulating identities. It has become an element of life that can be medicalized, politicized, commodified, subject to morality and demographics throughout history. Michel Foucault and Judith Butler, leading thinkers of identity politics, point to the norm as the problem in terms of exploring the possibilities of a more equal life experience for all. Foucault problematizes the idea of the norm as a design that needs to be contested and dismantled through concepts such as discourse, knowledge, subjectivity, representation, power, and gender. In Foucauldian perspective, meaning plays a crucial role in the formation and exercise of power. According to Foucault, meaning is not fixed or universal, but rather is constructed by power through discourse and social institutions and social practices. Today's normativity is remarkable for the consideration of the transformation process of meaning. Since the circulation of meaning is in constant motion, every meaning that was assigned according to the normativity of the past is renewed from the perspective of the present. In the process of the renewal of meaning, a new institution emerged, namely power. In this context, discourse is seen as a mechanism of power that establishes and reinforces definitions and boundaries of subjects. It is through discourse that individuals are positioned and located within particular power relations, which then shape their experiences and social identities. Sexuality has been one of the most important tools of power in constructing discourse and shaping social order according to its interests. According to Foucault's interpretation, since the 17th century, it has been difficult and objectionable to talk about sexuality in Western society. sexuality came to be seen as a domain that required regulation and control, which was accomplished in part through the shaping of language and discourse. In the 19th and 20th century, sexuality has reached the point where it can be the subject of economics and demography. Practices that were not considered procreative were excluded from acceptable forms of sexuality, and unregulated sexual behavior was subject to regulation. Institutions of power and medicine played a crucial role in establishing a sexual order. So power creates knowledge through various channels and leads the production and operation of the discourse in the system. In Foucault's view, through rituals, signs, education, advertising, discourses are attempted to be placed in the memory of subjects. And while some are determined as usable and put into circulation, others are suppressed and censored. Subjects shaped by power through discourse and knowledge are positioned through the assertion of some presumed truths. It is these supposed propositional truths that queerize subjects. Subjects exposed to the discursive setup of the power are categorized in a queer pool with variations such as smart, crazy, healthy, disabled, young, old, normal, abnormal, criminal, innocent. As Foucault argues, sexuality has been constructed in different relations from antiquity to modernity. In modernity, norms in discourse mechanisms such as medicine, law, and religion have divided subjects into categories such as homosexual and deviant. Because of the subject categorizations formed by these power institutions, sexuality does not come from the individual themselves, but from where they are positioned. Power regulates the body by producing discourses of truth, by biology and medicine. Judith Butler, who develops and occasionally criticizes Foucault's ideas, Foucault's concepts, plays an important role in questioning sexual subjectivation. Butler discussed sexuality not as a biological feature of human nature, but as a category constructed by social, historical, economic, religious, moral, and cultural and performative experiences. According to the distinction between sex and gender accepted by feminists, sex is innate and gender is constructed. Judith Butler, in contrast, says that a biological sex is also constructed by society, that is, by power and knowledge. As she notes, the identity debate always goes hand in hand with the gender debate. According to her, one of the most important problems related to sex and gender is the separation of the two. When sex is spoken of and the existence of sex is taken for granted, it becomes a discourse that acknowledges the existence of a sex nature. The expression of sex implies that individuals are assigned a sex prior to discursivity, and that the sex is constructed through sociality. As she posits, the gender that individuals believe to be an inherent quality within themselves, reduced to a binary by the power institutions, is actually a construction that occurs through the repetition of the practices, rituals, and fictions of masculinity and femininity on a conscious and unconscious level. According to Butler, and related to Foucault's thought, medicine, law, psychology, religion, and other authorities are important power institutions that gender bodies through discourse and knowledge. For instance, as Butler states, a fetus in a womb is genderless, but through discourse it is coded and gendered as a girl or boy with the expectation of performing that gender later. But in fact, the construction of identity is a process that continues until death. The fixation of subjects to definitions from birth damages fluidity and possibilities. Moreover, the starting point of definitions of subjects is not obvious, and these are discursive truths produced by power. Along with the subject, sexuality is also a discursive phenomenon and has a complex structure that cannot be explained by reducing to two. In conclusion, Foucault and Butler are two important thinkers who reveal sexuality as an artificial category. While Foucault turned to history to reveal the artificial construction of sexuality and coined the term disciplinary power to describe how institutions exert control over individuals. Butler expanded and further explored what Foucault had uncovered, revealing that gender is in fact performative. In their work, they subvert the notion of sexuality and gender as fixed and natural categories. In spite of significant progress towards equality, contemporary society unfortunately continues to marginalize individuals on the basis of their sexual identity and to deny them the same rights and opportunities as others. By acknowledging that sexuality is a socially constructed category shaped by discursive practices and by putting this understanding into practice, we can foster a more equitable life experience for all individuals. Thanks for watching.